I'm here today to talk about some of the things you may encounter post-NICU or still in NICU, because many of these can happen throughout any duration of your NICU journey. By no means will I be able to cover the whole range of feelings. These are kind of the most common ones that people kind of sort through and dig through. And there's no judgment if you didn't have these feelings, or you did, or they were something completely different, or a hodgepodge of all of them. That's okay. And for some, this could feel like a downer video, like, why would you make this video? There are so many parents who have gone through this journey who feel guilty about even having these thoughts and these feelings, and they feel like they're the only ones because we often don't talk about them. Let's just start with the paradox of emotions themselves. On one hand, you're happy, you're joyful, you're full of pride, but then you also have other feelings, and whatever that looks like for you. And those complexities can be really, really tough. Another frustration or another feeling that you might be working through is feelings of another different. Here's another milestone. Here's another chapter in my life as their parent and as the child that looks different than what I expected. Labor and delivery, different than what I expected. Milestones of them walking and crawling and eating, different than what I expected. Grieving over the way their first birthday should be, and instead what it is. Grieving over your first month with them, your first hours with them, mourning over that, grieving what it is. There's always wrapping your head around a new different when you're a NICU parent. And that comes to a head even at their first birthday. You could have feelings where you're like, this shouldn't even be their birthday. They're born 5 months early, 4 months early. Their birthday should be in whatever date it's supposed to be, their due date. And so it's important to acknowledge those feelings as well. Complex feelings of guilt is another element that you will be or could potentially be processing through. Guilt you couldn't be there enough. Guilt you couldn't keep your baby in longer. Guilt you couldn't advocate for them in certain spaces the way that you wanted to at the time. Guilt over breakdowns. Guilt over feeling that you lost out because you were in NICU all the time, if you were one of those parents that were able to be at NICU the entire time, but you feel guilty for feeling angry that you missed out or that life kind of went on without you. Work, hobbies, friends, circles, you name it. Feeling guilty that you had to work and you couldn't be at NICU all the time. There are all these different feelings of guilt that you could be processing. And it's paired with another feeling oftentimes, and that's the complex feelings of what if, or I should have. What if I would have kept the babies in longer? I should have advocated more in this space during this particular portion of NICU. What if I would have done this? What if I would have done that? The what ifs and I shoulds are extra bags that are kind of locked in with the guilt and weigh you down, and create a space of an alternative timeline and alternative outcomes that you can kind of float in and dance in. And that could keep you up at night, and that could weigh on you. And it's important to talk about how that plays in as you process. There's also something that I call care fatigue. And it's constantly advocating and being the spokesperson and the liaison for your child, or even for a family member that you're a caregiver for. This is an item that extends outside of the parameters of NICU. Constantly making sure, is the right medicine? Should they be on this medicine? Let me research this medicine. What about this specialist? Can they partner with me? All these different elements that you have to contend with on top of life and the complexities and difficulties that life brings. Family members getting sick, relationships that might have been in turmoil, all of those just create fatigue. And then on top of caring for somebody, you have care fatigue, and it's just extreme fatigue. I'm so tired. That could be where you sit, and it's okay. You could be dealing with complex feelings of jealousy. I call it I don't feel like their mom, I don't feel like their dad, I don't feel like their caregiver syndrome. When you are in NICU and your baby is confined to an incubator for some, and you're not able to touch them and interact with them unless it's on a schedule, and in certain moments it's only touching their head and touching, changing a diaper and doing temperature, you feel removed. And you don't feel like you're their parent. and the intimacy and the care is designated to a nurse or somebody else. And it could extend past NICU. You could go through this whole journey at NICU where you didn't feel like you had a lot of time with them. You couldn't be with them the whole time. You might have had to go to work, whatever your situation warrants. And then you get back and you have to go to work and you have to take them to daycare or with a family member. And then you miss out on stuff. You're looking back on their year and it looks different than how you may have had it with another child that you were able to be more involved in. And the guilt and the jealousy and the protectiveness of your time with them might be in there. That's a hard one for people to really understand, because I know that's something that I particularly struggled with, along with several of the other feelings in this video. But this one is definitely one that's very, very personal to me. You might still be in the fight. This is a big one, and I saved it for last. You might still be in NICU. You didn't think you'd be here a year later. You're angry. You're hurt. You might have gotten post-NICU in month 9 or 10. You've gotten hit by a sucker punch with a condition or a situation or an issue that's a big mountain that you thought that, I thought I would deal with that in NICU, not when they're 8 or 9 months. You could still be in the fight, or you could feel like you're in the fight, still dealing with follow-up appointments and conditions and advocating and health and bills. You just feel like you're still in a fight. And in many cases, because you're dealing with advocating for them and the care fatigue and everything else, you may not have had a chance to even process what happened in NICU to you and to your child and to your labor and everything else, or you as a partner or a caregiver and what that journey looks like through your lens. You may not be in that. You might be, I'm so far removed because I just don't even want to think about it. You probably aren't even watching this video at this point because you're like, I don't want to think about this stuff. I say this throughout the whole video, and that is to remind you that it's going to look different and feel different for you, and that wherever you sit on the spectrum is okay. I also want to take a moment to talk about those who lost. I want to do a video separate of that because it's my goal to create a safe space. And in being intentional in that space, I realize there are moments where I should step out of that space. And these are one of those moments. So I would love to have NICU mamas who have experienced loss that are open to talking about what the first birthday looks like and the second birthday, and how they processed through that. I want to give them the space to do that. But I wanted to acknowledge that I see you too. And so there are books that have different techniques on parenting, but there really is no instruction manual on how to parent your child. Your child was built uniquely, and you being their parent or caregiver, you are built uniquely. And the dynamic of both of those together is going to be different for every single parent and child, and caregiver and child. And that is no different in NICU. The circumstances that brought you there, the challenges that your baby had to face and that you had to face are going to be unique. As you're thinking and processing and sorting through, one thing I always want you to do is give yourself grace. If you take nothing else from this video, know that even at your weakest, you're strong. You're strong. You're strong when you're weak. You're strong when you're crying. You're strong when you're tired. You're strong. It takes a lot of strength in your weakest moments to get up and keep going. And it takes strength to realize when to stop and to take a moment. And so I give you those things as a fellow NICU parent. I love you all, and I'll see you in our next video.